Joining us now, Curtis Ellis, Senior Policy Advisor, America First Policies. That's the #1 political action committee supporting President Donald Trump. Curtis, welcome back.
It is so nice to be back. Great show today, John. Great show today. Sheriff Clark, Steve Bannon, Emily.
Curtis Ellis.
Oh, my gosh.
Can't be better.
I feel like I'm batting cleanup here. I'm the closer.
You're the guy, right? But look, lots to talk about today. So we're going to do rapid fire. Okay,
all right.
Let's get to number one. Big topic here in Virginia, the governor not opening up schools in any way that we can see. A lot of people like me think it's to keep people from going back to work because there's no evidence of why your child can't go back to school and get an education that, by the way, you're paying for. What say you?
Exactly right. I'm here in New York City. We've had thousands of people marching through the streets every day, everywhere. The playground, the children's playground in the park at the corner is closed, padlocked, chained shut. The basketball court where people play basketball, chained shut. There's no reason for any of this. I don't have kids, so I don't know if Governor Cuomo's yet announced that they're going to open the schools in September. This is insane. This is absolutely, these people are out of touch. It shows just how out of touch they are. This is not based on science. Their decisions are not based on science. They're totally arbitrary and ridiculous.
Why are we letting them destroy our lives?
That's exactly the question. I mean, we see tens of thousands of people come out to protest over the murder of George Floyd, and the other side is more than willing to stand up for what they believe is right. Why are we being so passive about this and just letting these people do this? I think everyone should open up their business, not just show up with an AR-15 to guard it against looters at night. Open them up during the day. Martin Luther King made the decision to pack the Birmingham jails when he was protesting against segregation, wanted to end segregation in Birmingham, Alabama. They couldn't, his strategy was pack the jails. They can't arrest all of us. They don't have enough jails. We need to take that same attitude. Open up your business. Let them come and call in the National Guard to enforce closing small businesses. Let them do that. Mm-hmm. That'll look really good because this whole thing is being engineered to destroy the economy to help their chances of beating President Trump in November. How will it look if they call in the National Guard to arrest small business owners? Take your kids to the playground. Get some bolt cutters and open up that playground.
So what is going on now in New York City? There's not 5 phases. He's got like 27 phases. Like, what can you do in New York now? Is there street vendors allowed? Can you go to your office, go on an elevator? What's the deal there?
No, you can't do any of those things yet. You can't, if you're a restaurant, you can do takeout. You can have curbside delivery for some of these, curbside pickup for some of the stores. You still can't open up a lot of offices. I'm not sure that any of the offices. I know that I was up at Newsmax the other day, so they're considered essential. They never shut down. It's going to be a big line at the elevators to get up to the 22nd floor of these towers in Midtown Manhattan because they're only going to allow so many people, but into the elevator at a time. But it's still a ghost town. There's still no traffic on the street. You can walk down the middle of First Avenue, Fifth Avenue, 8th Avenue, and not get hit by a car. It's ridiculous. This 27-phase reopening. If you've got 50,000 people marching through the streets, you can open up businesses, and it makes no sense.
How bad is it there? The store is still under barbed wire, lock and key, plywood?
Yeah. None of the plywood's come down, and I'm wondering if it'll ever come down. And you've got to figure that the stores that are closed, they're already, way before this, a lot of the retail stores are empty. That's because of the other problem going on. You've got private equity and these giant corporations and banker operations buying up all the properties in Manhattan and jacking up the rent so high nobody can afford them. They get to take a loss against the incredible profits they're making speculating in the stock market. They take a loss on their lost rent, but what happens is you've got deserts. The streets are like a desert, in a commercial desert. You've got empty storefront after empty storefront. Now they put plywood to keep the windows from being broken, and I don't think that plywood's ever going to come down. And then what you get is you get people putting graffiti. You get the graffiti artists tagging it with BLM and FTP and ACAB. All cops are bad guys, and that's going to become a permanent fixture in so many neighborhoods here, which just adds to the urban blight.
And in your mind, Curtis, as a New Yorker, there's no end in sight here, because who is it to put the barbed wire fence in the? Was it Macy's was already looted? What was the store? Saks Fifth Avenue.
Saks Fifth Avenue had barbed wire.
Saks was like, okay, I've had enough fence, barbed wire, plywood, guns. Thank you.
Yeah,
done.
We are seeing Bill de Blasio and Governor Cuomo have destroyed New York's economy. And it will never recover. It will take a decade to recover if it ever does.
I mean, how is he going to get this budget paid? How is he going to pay all these people?
Yeah, exactly. Notice the two sectors of the economy that did not shut down, the government and Wall Street. Government and finance kept going through this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And that's all that these guys care about. That's all Cuomo and de Blasio care about. Finance and real estate were the two major drivers of the New York economy, of the New York City economy. They gave up upstate a long time ago. Upstate New York was manufacturing, heavy manufacturing. We saw that go away in the 70s, 80s, never came back. President Trump's trying to bring it back. That went all to China. That destroyed the tax base, destroyed the employment base. For all that's left in New York was finance and real estate. And that's the same thing, because you can't do real estate without mortgages. Who gives you the mortgages? Banks, finance. So that's and they did fine. They don't care about the rest of the economy. They don't care about these small businesses. That's just parsley on the plate. That's just like little decoration. The stake is the Wall Street banks, and so they're willing to keep this shut down forever, because it's not their donors that are hurting. They're getting their donations from Wall Street and the big banks and the real estate developers. But I have a feeling it's going to come back to haunt them, because Midtown real estate, what do you need that for? If you got everybody working from home, you don't, it's a big question mark there. They haven't thought this through.
I don't think it's coming back. I mean, who wants to go there, walk around in a war zone, take your life in your hands? Okay, I'm going to go to word from our sponsors. When I get back, I want to talk about two things: defund police, what's going to happen there, what's the backlash in New York City right now. We heard from some of the cops there not too happy. I'm going to get your take on that. And also, I keep getting emails from companies I do business with saying that they're going to give money now to Black Lives Matter. It feels like extortion to me. I know that I shouldn't say that. That's the way it feels. And, okay, I just want to get your take on that. Plus, China, where are we going with this? And Steve Bannon says the time to act is now. We'll get Curtis's view on that when I get right back. Stay with us. With Curtis Ellis, Curtis Senior Policy Advisor, America First Policies. Curtis, defund the police, get rid of the police, abolish the police. What's going on with this?
This is a pretty crazy operation here. You've got the left wing, the radical left, today's version of heirs of the Weather Underground, the radical left, exploiting the situation, everybody's justified outrage over the murder of George Floyd, to turn it into their program to overthrow the government, to overthrow our way of life. And nobody can argue that we don't like dirty cops. Nobody likes dirty cops. Nobody likes corrupt cops. And they've turned that into, well, we've got to get rid of the whole capitalist system. Police are an occupying force in the third world communities of America, and it's a colonialist operation, and defund the police. Now, the question, not the question, but the thing to remember is Joe Biden says he's against defund the police. Well, that's all well and good, but does anybody really think that week-old senile Joe is going to be able to stand up to AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib when they come a-hunting to defund the police? The radical left is going to keep pulling and pulling and pulling Joe Biden and the Biden administration further and further to the left. These people are relentless. They never stop. And so now they say defund the police. So if they get you to half defund the police, everybody can say, well, we didn't defund the police. That's a very moderate position we've taken. But then they'll come back a year to go after the other half, and they'll keep cutting it in half and half and half, and it's just a matter of 1 year, 5 years, 10 years before they've replaced police with social workers, with their own armed militia, right? I mean, that's the game here, is to get rid of anybody that opposes them and replace it with something that's in their ideological alignment. Same way they've gotten rid of free speech on campuses and replaced it with neo-Marxist indoctrination.
Curtis, what is the reaction of the police union in New York City, like the Police Benevolent Association? I mean, what is their reaction to this?
Well, they're saying it's about time we stopped tarring all of the police with the same broad brush of everybody's corrupt, everybody's horrible, and they're all racist and murderers, racist murderers, and they're saying they want some respect. It's time to can I get no respect around here? They're doing the old Rodney Dangerfield routine. Mayor de Blasio is hopeless. He is now talking about taking $1 billion out of the police budget and giving it to community programs and youth programs. You've got the head of the police department, who's picked by de Blasio, saying, hey, that's a great idea. A lot of these programs, you got to remember, de Blasio's wife is in charge of a mental health program, right? A city-funded mental health program. They spent $500 million on it. Nobody knows where that money went. A lot of these programs in New York, some of them are good. They definitely have value. Some of them, though, are just black holes that are patronage mills and used by the political class to reward their friends and don't really accomplish anything. It's similar to foreign aid, similar to some of the food aid programs that have destroyed cultures around the world and destroyed economies in these third world countries. A lot of this welfare has had the same effect in this country, and it's troubling. Now you got to remember, Rudy Giuliani, he was the law and order mayor. He cleaned up New York in the 90s, and the myth is that the police loved Giuliani. They didn't. Giuliani stood up to the police. He cleaned up the police department. I live in a neighborhood. Not when I lived here. I moved here subsequently. But in the 1980s, the neighborhood I lived in was cheek to jowl, shoulder to shoulder, open-air drug markets. You had people selling heroin and needles and cocaine on the street. You had people lined up around the block to get into shooting galleries to shoot up the drugs that they bought on the street. People hawking it on the street. And the police... There's a precinct right here. You think the police didn't lift a finger to stop it. Why? They were on the take. They were on the take. Who cleaned that up? Rudy Giuliani. They hated him because he stood up to the police. He made them fly right. And so my point is this, that it takes a tough guy to be tough with the police. And for Mayor Fry, do people think that these Democrats and de Blasio are the solution to the police problem? They're not. They're exact wrong way to go. The exact opposite. So it's a very interesting dynamic that people thought that Giuliani was in the pocket of the police. Not at all. Quite the contrary.
It was actually the opposite.
Yep.
He stood up to the police, and he made them police the area. And I remember, you mentioned one neighborhood. I too remember him doubling up the number of police in Times Square, and he put those kiosks up. Remember those? And they were viciously attacked. Everybody hated the kiosks. But I tell you what, he put them up in Times Square. crime went down like immediately because there was cops and kiosks on every corner.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
and a lot of the cops didn't want to do that.
No, they didn't. They hated the kiosks. They hated them, but it protected them because they were bulletproof kiosks. But they were there watching, and anything happened, they just opened the door and got out. And so there was a lot that he did. All right, I got a couple more minutes. Let's get to China. Steve Bannon on today, really upset with what is going on. Are we at the breaking point today? Do we have to act now?
We certainly do. Steve Bannon was brilliant there. China is behind all of the problems we have in America now. George Floyd was on fentanyl, made in China. He was infected with the COVID virus, made in China. He didn't have a decent job because they were all sent to China, and he was passing a counterfeit bill, allegedly, which are printed in China. We know that. They intercepted like $100,000 or $1 million worth of counterfeit money being printed in China. So they are assiduously waging economic war, ideological war, information war against us, and chemical war, and, in a sense, biological war, in the broadest sense of the word, against America. And the Trump derangement syndrome has prevented Democrats from seeing that. We've got to defund them immediately. I say defund China. Stop sending them our money.
Right.
And whether it's boycott China, get out of China.us, get your sticker now, or, most importantly, get them off our stock exchanges. Do not let these Chinese companies sell their securities in America. Tell Goldman Sachs, quit doing business with the enemy regime, and cut off their money.